Hi, welcome to On Target Radio Segment 6. Just because the show's ended doesn't mean the conversation stops. This evening we've been talking about the big hit thing for tonight's show was the concealed carry and the ISIS.
You touched a nerve.
Yeah. We had a bunch of different topics. That's the one that played out for the whole show. And interestingly, one of the issues that loomed bigger than I would have anticipated is carrying a full-size gun.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people apparently do it and are in favor of it.
But there are people who think you can't do it, which I found interesting. Okay,
I'm one of them.
Yeah, if you're a dwarf, that's a different issue. But yeah, it's
so
true. There's a number of holsters that you can easily carry a full-size gun and it just disappears. You have to have a little size to you, I suppose, but you most assuredly can do that.
Yeah, I literally don't have anywhere to put it.
Yeah, it would be like a third leg. My comment, what started that whole thing going was I made the comment that concealed carry, you know, is historically, you think of it in terms of somebody walks into the 7-Eleven with a gun or whatever, so kind of a one-on-one thing, but the whole ISIS thing kind of changes that. And I carried a small little .45, and I just no longer was comfortable with doing that, so now I carry full size. And you still have baby Glock.
I do.
Yeah.
I do have baby Glock.
But between us, we have plenty of rounds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The bigger thing is the tactical aspect, I think.
I really do think, I think the more important thing is to make sure people are not sneaking up on you. I mean, you don't want someone to get the drop on you. Is really the bigger thing. You're going to have a tactical advantage if you're not as surprised as someone else.
Yeah, and one of the callers talked about he'd like to have open carry. And I don't object to open carry, but I wouldn't do it because it's just like wearing a uniform. Yeah, if a guy walks in and he's planning on shooting the place up and he sees you wearing a gun, you're the first shot.
Right, and people are looking at you. I mean, and I made that point that absolutely no one out in public is looking at me going, she probably has a gun.
Yeah.
So not showing that as sort of a tactical advantage as well.
What about also the fact that now you have a gun on you and someone might see it and want to try to take it from you?
Right.
Exactly.
It's an issue.
It's another way of being a target.
Yeah, and in fact, we make that point in Concealed Carry 1. And the point is, if somebody wants you and they know you have a gun, that doesn't change the fact that they want whatever it is that you've got. They're just going to figure out a better way to get it.
Right.
So I would not carry open. As cool as it would be, I just wouldn't carry open.
Yeah.
It's nice to have the availability, though, if you're just for the purpose of if you want to be able to transport openly, just to have the law written that way so you're allowed to actually.
Yeah, I certainly have no objection to an open carry law, but I'm just, from a tactical perspective, I personally wouldn't want to do that.
Exactly.
You go to Utah and you see people, they do that. And you go to Alaska. Alaska's really kind of funny. If you go like to breakfast in small little towns in Alaska, they have like all the rifles are lined up on the wall. I mean, people come in and they put their rifle up against the wall, they go have breakfast, and they come pick it up and walk out again. I mean, it's really pretty cool. One of the things that we've talked about and do, or maybe don't do, is like don't go to theaters where you can't carry a concealed firearm.
Well, I mean, I think that I tell our students all the time, you have to do your own personal gut check about where you're going to carry, where you're not going to carry. And, the movie theater that we tend to frequent is not posted. There is no gun sign there. So we're cool to carry there. But then on the other hand, I have no reasonable expectation that we're not the only people in there that are carrying.
Oh, I doubt it, yeah.
So even though we're doing it legally, I have no expectation that anyone else is going to back us up.
No, but I think here's my problem with theaters. Most theaters, your back is to the door.
Yeah.
So and you're absorbed watching a movie, you don't even know somebody's walked in the door.
Right, it's dark and every single person is looking in the same
Exactly.
direction.
I mean, they can hose down the whole theater before you even know what's going on. And that comment that you'd made during our pre-show thing about shows like that have balconies and that sort of thing takes you out of that fray and puts you above it.
Yeah, I went to a different movie theater last weekend than we normally go to, and the one that we normally go to, the door is behind everyone's back. I mean, everyone is walking in behind you. And so that's a tactical disadvantage to where we usually go. This movie theater that I went to this past weekend, there was a section that's down front where the doors are behind you, but then there's a section that's stadium seating, and you have to go upstairs to get to it. All of those seats are behind the stairs. So if anyone came in the door, you would see them come in. So all of those people have a tactical advantage, and actually the person that I was with, unknowingly, because he's not a tactical person, unknowingly picked the very last row. So our backs were to the wall. So that was perfect, because absolutely nobody could sneak up on us at that point.
And to some people this may sound like paranoia, but it's just the reality of the situation. I mean,
well, I consider it part of situational awareness and general preparedness. I mean, you're supposed to know where the fire exits are, so
sure.
How is it really any different than knowing how to get out if the building's on fire? It's really the same thing.
And I think you have to look at it in this perspective. Terrorists don't look to take out one person. They're not going to go into an office with a single person, unless they're targeting that person specifically. Like, what's her name?
Pam Geller.
Pam Geller. I mean, they're literally out to get her because she organized the cartoon thing.
Yeah, she's a Jewish activist and commentator. And,
yeah.
Yeah.
But I was going to say normal situation, which is hardly normal. But
there is no normal active shooter situation.
But terrorists, these type of people want to take out as many people as they possibly can.
Right.
So that's where you got to be cautious.
Even people who are mentally unstable, like the guy who shot up the movie theater in Colorado, they just want a high body count. They want to get their name on the news, and so yeah, same thing. They're not, and I tell people this in the classes as well. They're not looking at any one person, so you have time to get some concealment and take your shot. You know, line up your shot, and you probably have a few seconds to be able to do that.
Yeah, yeah. I think you have to be concerned when you go to a venue where there are a large group of people, a restaurant, a theater, anything like that, because they're not going to just come out looking for one person. They're going to try and make a big splash. And when you're in that sort of a venue, you want to be as far away from the door as you can get and facing it.
But facing it. Yeah.
And facing it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, is probably the best thing that you can do, to mitigate the potential for your being victimized. If you're right by the door, they just start mowing people down.
Yeah, you're first. You're the first one. Yeah, when I go to church on Sunday, I'm the only person in my church that carries. So I try to position myself actually closest to the door so that I'm not shooting across other people in my congregation, and also, but off all the way to one side. So again, I want to be shooting across as few of my friends as possible.
Right.
I want to be as close to the shooter as possible, but off to the side. So not right straight ahead where they come in, they start shooting. I want to be to the side, but so that I have a good view of the door.
Well, and I think the other thing is, if you ever found yourself in that situation, and realistically the odds of that happening are pretty small.
Low, yes.
Yeah. But if you ever found yourself in that situation, you are better served in the moments of sort of chaos to find a place to get behind a position of cover that will protect you from whatever they're shooting and give you a platform from which you can return fire from. To stand up in the middle of a room and just try and take somebody out with an AK-47, that's just suicide.
Right, especially in my church situation, it wouldn't be. It wouldn't. I wouldn't have to stand up, but there's nothing that's going to stop a bullet.
Right.
In that room.
No barrier,
Right. I mean, I can get behind the chairs, which are set up like pews. They'll offer concealment, but no cover.
You do the best you can do. I mean, literally.
Mm-hmm. And the same thing in a movie theater. Those chairs, they'll hide you, but they're
not going to stop it.
Yeah, they won't stop anything.
Yeah, exactly. The thing really remains, the best thing that you can do is get some form of tactical training.
Right.
It's just not the same thing as going to a range and shooting a piece of paper, you pulling the trigger when you feel like it. Mm-hmm. That's marksmanship. And it's not that marksmanship is bad, it's fine. The problem is, talk to me when the paper starts shooting back at you. that's when the adrenaline dumps.
And it's moving.
And it's moving.
Paper doesn't move, and you don't have that stress.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and there's lots of ways you can do that. There are courses you can take, certainly.
This weekend, Dave is teaching Tactical Pistol 1 and 2, which is sort of an introduction to tactical shooting, not just standing still, but moving and shooting and taking different positions. And Eric, I don't know when he's teaching live fire again, but our instructor Eric teaches live fire 1 and 2, which is drawing from holster. So it's more of a realistic situation for concealed carry.
And then there's other venues too, like at Aurora Sportsman's Club where we're from. We have IDPA, they got 2-gun shoot, they got 3-gun shoot, which is really the hot thing now. Practical rifle, there's all kinds of stuff going on. And when you're in a competition, even though it's a game, the adrenaline gets going.
Yeah, exactly.
It's pumping, yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes I find like with that, it's even, for example, I would imagine that in a life or death situation, you know, when you're going to shoot, sometimes you're not looking at your sights. You're just grabbing, trying to shoot back. That's my thought. So when I'm doing competition day, you know, I'm watching my shots. Sometimes I'm looking at my sights, sometimes I'm not. I'm just looking where I'm hitting. I can see it on the paper.
Yeah, we specifically, I teach in concealed carry 1, and I also teach in the tactical pistol point shooting. I mean, realistically, if you hold the gun properly, I can teach a monkey to shoot somebody at 15 feet,
right.
okay? It's just not that hard to do. You're talking about a life-size form in a close distance. You don't have time to aim. You literally don't have time to pick up a gun and aim if it's somebody at that distance.
And speaking of the training, you know, it's not just taking a class once, you know, and that's it. It's an ongoing process of trying to learn this stuff and practicing it and keeping your skills up. So there's many different ways, as we mentioned already, to do that. You know?
It's muscle memory, and we say this in class all the time. We can teach you everything you need to know to increase your potential for surviving that encounter. But knowing it cognitively is not the same thing as being able to actually do it. You have to actually practice doing it, like tactical reload or speed reload. I think most, I'm going out on a limb, I don't have any numbers, but I'm guessing most concealed carry holders don't carry extra magazines.
Right.
I think basically that's a reasonable thing. So speed and tactical reloads are kind of not a big deal, but it's stuff you need to know. It's precision use of the firearm, and that's what you have to understand. No thought process. If you have to think about shooting, you don't shoot enough. That's basically what it boils down.
We had a student in class today who I was talking about use of deadly force, and I said the absolute best thing you can do if someone is offering you deadly force, hold them at gunpoint. You know, don't pull the trigger. They can't really arrest you or charge you with anything if you don't pull the trigger. But if you're holding, the student said, if you're holding someone at gunpoint, how are you going to call the police? You know, you have to be able to call the police with your phone with one hand. And I said, you can practice that. Right. There's nothing to prevent you from practicing that with a blue gun in your house or an unloaded real gun in your house. Practice it. Or program your phone to do voice recognition, you know, call 911. You know, plan ahead. This is really all about planning ahead. And, you know, we buy all sorts of insurance and we practice fire drills. We do all sorts of things for situations we absolutely don't actually think are going to happen. This is the same.
You know, I ask in class, if you're right-handed, I say, can you shoot left-handed? Can you get a gun out of the holster with your left hand? Can you reload the gun? Can you change magazines? Can you do it with your left hand? And everybody looks at me like I fell off the moon. Right. It never occurs to them.
Yeah, you never know if you're injured, your hands are cast, or if it happens during the incident.
And you know what? It's not difficult to do it. It's no big deal to do it. It's just that nobody ever stops and thinks about learning to do it. But you're talking about predators. And if you injure your right hand, in my case, it does not even shot. If you're running, looking for cover, and you bump into a wall and break an arm, I mean, that arm's out of commission. That guy's not going to go, oh, did you hurt yourself? You want to go home now?
Okay.
Right, I mean, so you should be able, I show a video in class. When I ask people, I said, you were there, you were in class. I show this video in class, I go, how many people in here can shoot with their offhand? Almost nobody raises their hand. And they look at you like, oh, I don't think you can do that. And I got a video, you saw it, of a guy who has no arms laying on the hood of a car shooting a gun, a semi.
I shooting it, he was reloading it too.
And he was reloading it with his feet.
Reloading it,
Right.
chambered it.
So, you know,
Nuts.
yeah, of course you can.
What's your excuse?
Exactly. Of course you can,
Yeah.
you can shoot off the...
With practice, you can learn to do almost anything.
It is.
Yeah, I know, shooting the rifle offhanded, I'm not left-handed, I've done that. And
It feels weird.
it feels weird, and I've actually shot pretty well with it. It's probably because I'm more thinking it through as I'm doing it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually shoot a little bit better with my non-dominant hand, and I think
Yeah.
it's because I have no expectations of how well I'm going to do.
Right.
I go, well, it's my non-dominant
And you're
hand,
just going through the
so
process.
you know, I give myself a pass. So yeah, I'm just trying to do a good job. I'm not putting any pressure on myself.
Right.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I think that kind of sums up what we know anyway.
It's some tips that people can get started with. It's
Yeah.
certainly not everything that can be done.
We'll have to do another show on
And
this.
then the Vince Lombardi quote.
And what?
And
Oh,
then the
yeah.
Vince Lombardi quote.
Practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes
Exactly.
perfect.
Yeah. Vince Lombardi. Do people even know who he is now?
Oh my
Younger
God,
people?
yeah.
Oh,
Oh
yeah, I
yeah.
think so.
Do they still know who he
My
is?
generation doesn't completely suck. Yeah, we know who he is.
And on that note, we'll see you next week.